Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. My name is Bryson Carver, and we've got a pretty darn good show for you guys today. So we got no football this weekend. The Pro Bowl doesn't count. I don't care about the Pro Bowl. It's the worst all-star game in sports. Give me the MLB all-star game, the NBA all-star game, the WNBA all-star game. I mean, give me any all-star game outside of the Pro Bowl, okay? Just want to get that out of the way. I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay, I saw the skills competition yesterday and everything. That's cool. My man Micah Parsons won the fastest man challenge. That's awesome. But no, I don't care about the Pro Bowl. But good show for you guys today. Jimmy Garoppolo is all but assuredly, he is going to be traded by the San Francisco 49ers, as the reports that I've been hearing out of San Francisco for about 2 months now is all but confirming. I've got a trade destination in mind, and I think it really makes a lot of sense. I'm going to give you all that later in the show, as well as Aaron Rodgers. He bought some land in an NFL city. And that NFL city happens to host a pretty darn good team. A team that was, as a matter of fact, some even discussed as a possible legit Super Bowl contender going into these playoffs. Going to discuss that, as well as my man Klay Thompson reining them in last night against the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers, despite a 17-point comeback against their rival, the Los Angeles Clippers. They couldn't pull it off. As well as Doug Pederson as well, getting hired by the Jaguars. But I want to start with a little bit of breaking news we have going today. According to Shams Charania, I'll go and put the tweet up right here. Sources, according to Shams Charania, the Philadelphia 76ers are expected to pursue Brooklyn's James Harden ahead of the NBA trade deadline Thursday, and the Nets are now open to discussing a deal. So this is really interesting. And other reports that have come in since Shams' tweet said Ben Simmons would likely be packaged for James Harden. So the trade deadline's coming up soon. And we've been hearing for a couple weeks now, Harden might get traded out of Brooklyn. He is not committed to a long-term deal with the Nets. The fact that he's probably not staying with the Nets, that report came out, didn't surprise me at all personally, just because the fact that last offseason, both James Harden and Steph Curry were in very, very similar positions. Last year of their contracts, and people are like, okay, are they going to play this last year out and then go elsewhere? There were legit rumors that, hey, Steph may actually leave. Steph signs his multi-million-dollar extension, and James Harden does not, despite forcing his way out of Houston to go to Brooklyn. But that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But this, I saw this tweet, and I'll just be completely honest with you. The first thing that came to my head was, I told you, Katie, you should not have left. You shouldn't have left Golden State. I'm not just saying that as a Warriors fan, but you leave the stability of Steph Curry, who is one of the 2 or 3 best leaders in the NBA, next to like Chris Paul and Jimmy Butler. You could put LeBron in there among the best leaders in the NBA. You leave him, you leave Draymond, who they're friends with now. I mean, heck, Draymond interviewed KD and played with him during the Olympics last summer. And you leave Klay Thompson, who I'm going to talk about later in the show, who's the most relaxed, low-maintenance star that the NBA has. Without a question. You leave a great coach in Steve Kerr, great GM of Bob Myers, an excellent ownership group led by Joe Lacob and Peter Guber, a beautiful new arena in San Francisco, right by the Bay, and what is now a pretty darn deep bench. To go to Brooklyn, who, listen, nothing against the city of Brooklyn. It's a great city, and Barclays Center is top-notch. But you leave Steph for Kyrie and James Harden, and now possibly you're going to have Kyrie for road games and Ben Simmons. Y'all know I got my issues with Harden in the playoffs. Y'all know I have my issues with James Harden once we get to April, May, and he never gets to June. But I'll take a guy who at least shoots in the playoffs as opposed to a guy who put up 0 in one game in the second round last year against the Atlanta Hawks. Remember those games? Ben Simmons was putting up goose eggs in regards to shot attempts, in regards to even points. Like it got so bad that Doc Rivers, was having to take Ben Simmons out of the game and inserting poor Tyrese Maxey, who's a nice player, but he's not as good as Ben Simmons. But Simmons became a head case. Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid kind of blamed him after the game. Now, we can debate as to whether that was the right move by the superstar player and the head coach another day. But the bottom line is, Ben Simmons ain't that dude. So you're telling me that the Brooklyn Nets can win a championship with Kevin Durant, who is all-world, who is one of the 3 best basketball players on earth. Kyrie Irving, who is one of the 15 greatest basketball players on earth. I saw him against my Warriors, and he was balling out. Really gave me and all of Dub Nation a collective scare before Klay Thompson. I know I brought up Klay a lot, but he hit the dagger shot, and that was that. Here's the problem. It's only going to be available for road games, as we all know. And then you're going to have Ben Simmons. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to play KD at the 5 because KD's had a lengthy injury history throughout his career, and especially the last 3 years dating back to his original calf strain in the playoffs with my Warriors against the Rockets. Of course, 2 rounds later, he came back earlier than he should have in the finals against the Raptors, and 12 minutes in, he tore his Achilles and was out for a year and a half. But then he's had groin issues. He now has an MCL sprain. So Kevin Durant, at only the age of 33, has become quite brittle. Like, he's not physically as reliable as he used to be. And so for Brooklyn, I don't know what there is to like. This is why I didn't predict them to get to the finals this year. Kyrie didn't know when or if he was even going to be available, which we now know he is, just not for home games. As far as we know, the vaccine mandate is not going to be lifted in Brooklyn. So he's not going to play home games. Then James Harden, who is awful in the playoffs, especially the biggest of playoff games. Well, you may not have him now, but you may have Ben Simmons in return. An old roster, listen, it was brought to my attention a few weeks ago. And look, I'll admit it. This is a fair criticism of me. I've ripped the Lakers, who I'll talk about later in the show, all season long, even before the season, for having a really old roster. I've called them the retirement home basketball team. But Brooklyn's not that far behind. As a matter of fact, the Nets are the 2nd oldest roster in the NBA. Paul Millsap, who's probably about to get traded. LaMarcus Aldridge, a way out of his prime Blake Griffin. Patty Mills, who can play, but he is getting up there in age. I mean, really, one of the only younger guys they have is Nick Claxton. He's not going to make a huge impact, I wouldn't think. Joe Harris is hurt. So really, if you think about it, the Nets have just as many problems as the Lakers do. Their best player gets hurt a lot, LeBron, KD. Their second best player is unreliable, whether it be due to injury, Anthony Davis, or due to doesn't show up in the postseason, James Harden. And the third best player is about as unpredictable as they go. Russell Westbrook can play outstanding like he did last night, or he can give you a game where he scores, 9 points and 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and goes 0 for 5 from 3 and like 3 for 20 from the field. He'll have those games. And then the rest of your roster's old and struggles to stay healthy. See Carmelo Anthony last night, the hamstring issue. So, I mean, Brooklyn's sitting at the 6th seed right now. We're not talking about that enough. As hard as I've been on the Lakers, who are sitting at the 9 seed, 3 games under 500, those Brooklyn Nets are at the 6th seed. Now, it's tightly contested in the East. They're only 3 games back of the 1 seed Bulls, and we still got, another 2.5 months to go. But there's more questions than answers, and this is why I didn't like Brooklyn going into the season. That's just kind of my thoughts. Now, in regards to the 76ers, first, though, some comments from my man Grady Edwards. Always chiming in the comment section. We love that. He says, this time next season, Brooklyn will go down in history as one of the biggest what-ifs. Brooklyn should just close their eyes and trade Kyrie to Sacramento for one of the bazillion guards they have. Boy, Sacramento does have a lot of guards. You got Fox and Halliburton and Buddy Hield, and I'm telling you, I like that. I like that Davion Mitchell kid out of Baylor. He played really well against my Warriors last night. Like, Davion Mitchell's going to be a really good player. But Sacramento's got a million guards, like you said. So, trade for one of those young guys. They're probably not going to trade for Fox. Would they trade? Would they let go of Buddy? Probably, because they almost traded him to the Lakers, and that's a team within their division. So if they're willing to almost have a deal in place to trade Buddy Hield to a team they're going to play 4 times a year, they would trade him to Brooklyn. Obviously, depending on what they get in return. Which Kyrie, that's pretty good. And especially for a team like Sacramento that, they have a beautiful arena out there, the Golden One Center, but let's be real, they're not making any noise. They're not sniffing the playoffs, probably not even going to make the play-in tournament. And so might as well sell some tickets, right? But, I mean, that's the thing at the end of the day. And I said, going back to training camp, I said trade Kyrie Irving. Okay, he's not going to be available due to the vaccine thing, but he's never available because of sitting out randomly, and obviously he's had injury issues. Again, there's more questions than answers with the Brooklyn Nets, and so if this trade deal goes through, I will say huge win for Philadelphia, who I'll transition to right now. So now the 76ers lost last night. Did they lose last night? Yeah, they did. They lost last night, but Joel Embiid right now is the Vegas betting favorite to win MVP. And with a Sixers roster that's pretty good, right? You got Seth Curry and Matisse Thybulle and Harris. So you got some good pieces, Doc Rivers. But in regards to competing with the Milwaukees, with the Chicagos, are they going to have enough horses to get them there? That's the ultimate. Or Miami, for example. Miami's absolutely contender out of the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid by himself cannot take you there. You're going to need help. Ben Simmons isn't going to be there. And so go get James Harden. Because what the 76ers have wanted and thought for a little while they had, maybe somewhat, delusionally, they thought they had, was the NBA classic, superstar big man, all-star point guard. Now, Ben Simmons has been to multiple all-star games, and he is immensely talented. But as my man Grady says, and told me last summer during the playoffs, he's the NBA's Jay Cutler. Ridiculously talented, but could care less. That's one of the better comparisons I've heard for a player in a while. So shout out to Grady for that one. But with Ben Simmons, he's not going to be there, so you can get a James Harden in return. So you got a superstar player. Now, Harden's had a down year this year. He still made the All-Star game, but he's had a down year this year. Is it a change of scenery that he wants? And for the 76ers, what they're going to have to determine is this. You got Daryl Morey, who was obviously James Harden's general manager for years in Houston. He loves James. He wrote a whole article or something about James Harden, how much he loved him after he left Houston for the Philadelphia job. James Harden, in all likelihood, is going to end up a 76er within the next 6 months. Because if he finishes the year with the Brooklyn Nets, assuming they don't win the title, which I don't think they will, we come to July when free agency starts, and he can go wherever he wants. And I think we all think he would go to Philadelphia. And so for the 76ers, you're thinking, okay, we're probably going to get him anyway. He's probably going to come here to begin with. But we are gambling in that regard if we do wait out till free agency. We're also gambling. Maybe a team trades for him now. Say a team like, I don't know. I don't think Miami would trade for him. They had a deal in place, or they thought about trading for him a year ago, but they didn't. But maybe some other team that we didn't think about swoops in, they trade for James Harden. So they're saying Joel Embiid, as great as he was last year, he's been even better this year. Okay, he is a legit NBA MVP candidate. We can't just have him ball out. Maybe we win a playoff series and we get bounced by somebody like Milwaukee or Miami in the next round. That'll be a wasted season for us. That'll be a wasted season for our superstar big man. as well as he's playing, let's bring somebody else in who James Harden, he's listed as a shooting guard. James Harden's not a shooting guard. He's a point guard, okay? He's led the NBA in assists multiple times. A guy who can get his own shot, is not scared to shoot. Again, got my issues with Harden in the playoffs. He's not scared to shoot. Get the ball to Embiid, and let's go after a title. So I get where the Sixers are coming from here. Now, Brooklyn, they're stuck. They are in quicksand right now. Harden doesn't want to be there. Kyrie can't be there for home games. And their best player, Kevin Durant, is brittle. You got a coach in Steve Nash who I don't trust. I like Steve Nash. I do, but I don't trust him as a head coach in the National Basketball Association. Okay, he was outcoached by Mike Budenholzer in the playoffs last year. Not to mention you got an old roster. So that's kind of my main concerns with Brooklyn, but I get where Philadelphia is coming from. Absolutely. Grady says it's perfect for Kyrie. Show up 9 to 5 and be a part-time player. There you go. Where's the Harden trade rumor stemming from? Out of curiosity, kind of surprised he'd want to leave considering he just got there. I guess the Kyrie nonsense has something to do with it. First of all, yes, the Kyrie nonsense does have something to do with it because there sources of, well, not sources. You can just go on YouTube and look at the press conferences. James Harden has thrown little shots at Kyrie after games about him not being vaccinated, things of that nature. But here's the tweet of, I'll put it back up there, by Shams Charania. The 76ers are expected to pursue James Harden ahead of the NBA trade deadline, and the Nets are now open to discussing a deal. So that's where it's coming from. Shams, Woj, it's two of the best in the business without a question. So, and like I said, this report does not surprise me at all. But I would be very, very interested to see what the Nets do once Ben Simmons comes in. Like I'm really, really curious to see how that dynamic works, because once we do get to the postseason, and Kevin Durant's going to be standing, hopefully healthy, Kevin Durant's going to be there like for home games at the Barclays Center. Like, so I got Ben Simmons, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Blake Griffin, and Patty Mills, and Nick Claxton, and I got nothing. What have I said before? This isn't 2K. This isn't NBA 2K, man. You can't just throw in the best players and boom, it's going to work. How many teams have we seen try to become a super team? Look at the Lakers like 10 years ago. They had Kobe and they had Pau Gasol. But then they bring in Dwight Howard and then Steve Nash. It's like, guys, that dynamic does not work in the slightest. And of course, it completely fell flat on its face. I could see the Nets being the same issue here. But KD, you shouldn't have left Golden State. I'm just saying. To the NFL now. We had another head coach hired. It is Doug Pederson to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, let me go and get this note out of the way. We now have 6 head coaches who have been hired in this cycle, 3 jobs to go, and 6 for 6 all are white coaches. Nothing against white coaches, of course, but no black head coaches. You see why Brian Flores is filing a lawsuit against the NFL and 3 teams, but I talked about that yesterday. Let's talk about Doug Pederson. I really like this hire by Jacksonville. Okay. Brian Dable was my favorite hire to this point. I think Doug Pederson is either on equal ground, or I could arguably say a better hire than Dable. Because the thing with Doug Pederson is this. He took over a Philadelphia Eagles team that had just went 7-9. What did they do Doug Pederson's first year in Philly? They went 7-9. So it's like, okay, where are we improving here? But in 2017, he took a 4th-place Eagles team, and all he did was coach Nick Foles to a Super Bowl title over the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. We all know about the Philly special and things of that nature. Doug Pederson was a part of that. 2018, Foles started the season, then Wentz came back in, and shocker, Wentz went down with an injury again. Nick Foles comes in. They barely get in the playoffs. They win a game at Chicago, the famous double doink game. And then they nearly, if Alshon Jeffrey makes a catch, then they beat the Saints on the road in the Superdome. So they could have had another Super Bowl run. Who knows? In 2019, with Carson Wentz stinking up the joint, they still made the playoffs as the NFC East champion. And then last year, it fell apart. Carson Wentz was inconsistent and injured, and they had to start a rookie Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles went 4-11-1. And of course, the debacle at the end of the season when, that last game it was actually the last game of the regular season. They're playing Washington, and you got Hurts is starting, playing fairly well, and they bench him for Nate Sudfeld. And that completely lost the locker room, and Doug Pederson was fired. So it did not end well at all in Philadelphia. But I look at Doug Pederson going into Jacksonville, where he's got a young Trevor Lawrence. The rest of the roster, it ain't very good. Okay, you do have James Robinson. You have Travis Etienne, who has yet to play an NFL game yet. Trevor Lawrence, teammate, a running back out of Clemson, yet to play a game yet. So you wait. You're going to want him to get healthy. Defensively, you do have some good players. You still have Myles Jack, but outside of that, it is a thin roster. But for Jacksonville, this is a win because you have an established head coach who's won a lot of games, who's won a Super Bowl within the last 5 years. This isn't Mike McCarthy where he won a Super Bowl a decade ago with a Hall of Fame quarterback. No, he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Not against Nick Foles, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. So the last 5 years, Doug Pederson did that. As a matter of fact, when he got hired out of Philly last year, I was like, whew, thank God we don't have to deal with him twice a year. I have the ultimate respect for Doug Pederson because I think Andy Reid disciples, if you will, most of them. Matter of fact, you could argue Andy Reid's former assistants have been more successful than Belichick's former assistants. You look at guys like Matt Patricia and Bill O'Brien. Like it's not been great for the most part outside of Brian Flores. Andy Reid's assistants, like Matt Nagy is going to get an opportunity next year. Like I think Matt Nagy can coach. I think he was a little indecisive this year on, is Andy Dalton starting? Is Justin Fields starting? And I think he lost the locker room a little bit there. But Matt Nagy can coach. Doug Pederson can coach. So he's got a young quarterback that he can develop. I mean, the guy, with the help of Frank Reich in Philadelphia, helped Carson Wentz become an MVP candidate. Carson Wentz. What can he do with Trevor Lawrence? Okay, the talent is through the roof with this guy. There's no question about it. He's one of the most obvious number one picks going into the draft we've ever seen. He's one of the highest graded quarterbacks out of college we've ever seen. I mean, he's got everything: the accuracy, the arm strength, the mobility, the physical gifts in regards to his size. Like, I mean, he's got it. When we talk about it physically, Trevor Lawrence has got it. And he even tweeted last night he's ready to get to work. And so Jacksonville fans should be very, very excited, without a question. I think this is an A hire, arguably an A+ hire. And I think for the Jaguars, don't expect playoffs next year. You still got a ways to go with a roster that, like I said, is not very good. It's not. But build through the draft, free agency, maybe within 2 years that Jacksonville's a playoff team. Who knows? Because we know in the AFC now, you better have a great quarterback to have a chance to win a championship. Because you got Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen. Okay, you got kind of the big three up top there. And so you have a guy with all the potential to be a superstar quarterback without a doubt. He just needs coaching, okay? Urban Meyer going to clubs after Thursday night football games. You don't have to worry about that with Doug Pederson. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's an excellent offensive coach. I think that if there's anyone that could develop a guy like Trevor Lawrence, I think Doug Pederson's your guy. I really, really like this hire a lot for the Jaguars. A lot. I think it's an A hire. Let's see. Grady says Nick Foles is Carson Wentz's boogeyman. Lord, is he. It's unbelievable. The problem, Grady says, the problem won't be coaching. It's their GM. Trent Balk is a bum of a GM who got rid of Harbaugh for Tua. And he says got rid of Harbaugh for Jim Tomsula. Yeah. You're talking about San Francisco, by the way, where Jim Harbaugh, after 3 straight NFC Championship game appearances, was, after his 4th year, Lord forbid he has one off season going 8-8, and he gets fired. And Jim Tomsula comes in. I can't remember. The 49ers won like 5 games. I mean, they were terrible. So, yeah, that was big mistake on their part. So, yeah, you're probably right. They do need to find a new general manager, but you've got the head coach now. You definitely have the quarterback. Okay, Trevor Lawrence didn't have a great year last year, but listen, who would have? Horrible offensive line. The skill position players weren't great. Travis Etienne got hurt before the season even started, and the defense outside of Myles Jack is atrocious. So, but there's reason to look up now if you're a Jaguars fan, without a question. So, got the quarterback, got the coach who has a history of developing young quarterbacks. You can go places without a question. I'm not saying that they're going to win a Super Bowl sometime in the next 5 seasons. I don't envision that. But in regards to talent, Lawrence is up there with the best in the business. No question about it. We saw it in college. We saw it in spurts with the Jaguars. There was a play last year. It was actually the last game of the Jags season, the infamous game where they beat the Colts and knocked Indianapolis out of the playoffs, infamously. But you got Trevor Lawrence, who was like a 3rd and goal play, and he extended out of the pocket and just made a great throw to the end zone for a touchdown. He's got the abilities. He made a throw against Cincinnati down the left sideline in that Thursday night game I was talking about, where Urban went to the club soon after. But Trevor made a throw that was like, yep, that's an NFL throw right there. Like, you see flashes, but when you got that guy as your head coach, how much can you really see in regards to their potential? So for Jacksonville, I think he got this one right. I'd have been good with Byron Leftwich too, without a question. But when you got a Doug Pederson who has won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles of all people, he can win with Trevor Lawrence. Darren Campbell's in the comments. He says, Doug Peterson's a great hire. He really took an Eagles team much farther than they should have. They should have given him a lifetime contract for finally bringing them a Super Bowl title. And, I remember I was talking about my show, Darren, the last year after, or at least before the Eagles' last game, when there were rumblings, okay, maybe Peterson gets fired and this and that. And I said, well, I don't know why you would, okay? He had the 7 to 9 years first year, but you're not going to crush a coach for his first year, at least in most cases, unless it's just awful like Urban Meyer's. If you show promise, they're going to give you a second year. Year 2 won the Super Bowl. Year 3 made the playoffs. Year 4 made the playoffs and had a down year in year 5. What got him fired was the issue with Nate Sudfeld coming in mysteriously off the bench for Jalen Hurts, who was playing fairly well. I mean, all the reports out of Philly said that totally lost the locker room. Even Jason Kelsey, who's kind of the heartbeat of the Eagles, the Pro Bowl center, even he was like, Coach, what are you doing? Like, there was a real sort of like, dang, I can't believe you did that, Coach. It was like a loss of trust. I think it was what it was. That got him fired. I don't think it was the 4-11-1 season. Everybody gets a down year. Everybody gets a down year. You move on to his next season. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know if I go lifetime contract. I think only like Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin and Belichick deserve lifetime contracts, and Sean Payton had he not stepped away. But I mean, those guys are lifetime contract guys. I don't think Peterson's in that group, but he can coach. There's no question about it. We saw it time and time again throughout that 2017 playoff run when they beat Atlanta, destroyed Minnesota, and then beat the greatest dynasty in NFL history to win the Eagles' first Super Bowl title and make me sick to my stomach. Actually, today, ironically, is the 4-year anniversary of the Eagles winning that championship, that Super Bowl over the Patriots. Not a good day for me as someone who hates the Philadelphia Eagles, let's just say. But good hire by Jacksonville. Let's move on now to Jimmy Garoppolo. So let's see. Do we have another comment? There we go. I know what you're talking about here. Grady says, then Joe Judge gave that all-time rant. He had me thinking this guy was on his way to becoming a championship coach. Yes, I remember the Joe Judge rant, because for those of you that don't remember, the Giants won their game over the Dallas Cowboys in that last week of the regular season, and they needed the Eagles to beat Washington so that the Giants could get in the playoffs. Well, of course, Doug Pederson benched Jalen Hurts, in effect, seemingly tanking the game. Washington won the game. They made the playoffs, not the Giants. And Joe Judge gave this big passionate speech, to the media. And it was like, Joe, like, to be fair, you did go 6-10. You had many more opportunities to make the playoffs, and you came up short in a lot of those. But yeah, I remember that rant that Joe Judge went on. But to Jimmy Garoppolo now, to Jimmy Garoppolo, So I said on the show about 2 months ago that all the reports that I were hearing out of San Francisco was that regardless of what happens this season, he will be traded. And I have to say this, I got to give a big kudos to John Lynch, the general manager, who has done a phenomenal job running football operations in the Bay Area, because he's not going to make the mistake of waiting and dragging it out. So the media, it becomes a story like, oh, do they not trust Trey Lance? Is Trey Lance not ready? Are some divided? Should we keep Jimmy G? They're like, nope, Trey Lance is our franchise quarterback. We're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. It is that simple. That's what we're going to do. So hats off to the 49ers on doing that. I've always said I like Jimmy Garoppolo. Am I going to mortgage my entire franchise for him? Absolutely not. And I'll get to San Francisco in just a second. But for Jimmy G individually, I think if you give him the perfect situation, you give him a great running game, great skill position players, a great offensive line, and a great defense, and a great coach. I mean, he has started in a Super Bowl, after all. But like that Super Bowl that he played against the Chiefs, and like the NFC Championship game 6 days ago against the Los Angeles Rams, if you're asking Jimmy Garoppolo, as I always use the phrase, take me there, no. He's not that good. 3 for 9, 30 yards, and a game-ending interception in the fourth quarter for the 49ers season to come to an end against their arch-rival Rams. So, is Jimmy G a franchise quarterback? You can argue about that all you want. I say he is if you give him the perfect pieces. But he's limited mobility-wise. He has had injuries. That's another issue with him, right? He stayed fairly healthy this season, so credit to him there. But he has had injury problems throughout his entire career. He's got a good arm, not a great one. His accuracy comes and goes. He missed some wide open throws in that championship game against the Rams. He infamously 2 years ago against the Chiefs missed Emmanuel Sanders on that post route that would have possibly won the Super Bowl for San Francisco. I mean, he had Emmanuel Sanders on a 3rd and long, wide open, and overshot him and missed him. Again, if he hits that throw, maybe the 49ers would have won that Super Bowl. Very, very, very possible. So I thought about it. I'm thinking, okay, there's some teams. There's a Washington, right? The Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders. I can't even say that with a straight face. That organization is junk. But you got them, Washington, who has a great head coach in Ron Rivera. You've got a solid offensive line. I really like Brandon Scherf, their guard. You've got good skill position players. You got guys like Terry McLaurin and that tight end they have. I forgot his name, but he's really good. I'm trying to remember. He was a quarterback in college. His name's not coming to my mind at this particular moment. But defensively, although they had a down year, they still have Chase Young, who's a superstar already. I mean, he had a great year. His rookie year, unfortunately, tore his ACL this past season. But Washington's a possibility. Pittsburgh's a possibility. Ben retired. And would you rather go with Jimmy Garoppolo or Mason Rudolph and roll the dice on Dwayne Haskins? I wouldn't be against trying out Dwayne Haskins. Give him a second chance. Has his maturity improved? We'll see. He's in Pittsburgh. He's been there for a year now. Maybe he's finally ready to be a franchise quarterback. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks on him. Pittsburgh's decision-making in regards to finding a quarterback for 2022 is going to tell me a lot about what they think about Dwayne Haskins. He was a first-round pick just 3 years ago. So you have that. So would Jimmy Garoppolo be a fit there? Sure. How about Denver? Yeah, absolutely. You got Melvin Gordon in the backfield. You got a good offensive line, good skill position players, Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, Noah Fant. Defensively, you got Pat Surtain picking off passes for you. Is it crazy to say? Maybe he does what many thought he would do 5 years ago in his previous NFL destination. Could he succeed Tom Brady in Tampa Bay? Could he? because in Tampa, now they're in a weird situation. Tom's gone. You're no longer a Super Bowl contender, but you can still win that division. Carolina's a mess. Atlanta's Atlanta. They'll win, 7 games. Maybe Atlanta wins the division. Who knows? Sean Payton just stepped away from the Saints. They don't have a franchise quarterback. And for Tampa, you're like, okay, we still got Mike Evans, who's phenomenal. Now that Brady's retired, we could probably bring back Chris Godwin. You've got an excellent offensive line. Playoff Leonard Fournette. I don't know if he's a free agent or not. He might be. But you could possibly bring back Fournette. Defensively, Devin White, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, who's on a long-term contract, and Ndamukong Suh. Like, you've got playmakers defensively and offensively. That's still a good roster. Bruce Arians can still coach. Wouldn't be shocked if he retired after this season. But you got 2 good assistants if he does. You got Byron Leftwich, you got Todd Bowles. So I don't think Tampa's crazy. If Jimmy goes to Tampa, they're a playoff team. They would win that division unless one of the teams in that division made a, just out of this world, come out of nowhere trade. You got the Deshaun Watson factor. Did the Panthers make a trade for him? Do the Saints make a trade for him? Now, their cap situation is awful, so I don't know if they'd be able to. But Tampa, you could argue with Garoppolo, is still the best team in the division. I'd be for it. Some have suggested, well, what about Kyle Trask? Listen, I like Kyle Trask. He's, I talked about him yesterday. He's fine. He had a solid career at Florida. But I'd take Jimmy Garoppolo over Kyle Trask, and I'd darn sure take him over Blaine Gabbert. So you have the coaching staff, offensive line, skill position players, and defense. And Tampa's special teams is really good. And you're in an awful division. I think if you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, now you don't want to mortgage like a first-round pick for him. If San Francisco asks for a first-rounder, I'm saying no. Like, I can't do that for a guy that's had injury problems and consistency problems. But I think it works. I really, really do. He's a similar quarterback as far as how he plays to Tom Brady. There's a reason he was Brady's backup, the reason the Pacers drafted him, because of the similarities. I'm sorry. I think it works. I really do. I really, really do. Gray says trade Jimmy to the Giants. I don't know. He's better than Daniel Jones. He says, Daniel, I dropped the dimes, needs some competition. Maybe. And listen, I still don't think Daniel Jones is going to be a franchise quarterback, even with Brian Dable coming in. But I don't know, maybe. But again, the thing I said about Jimmy, he's a franchise quarterback if you put the perfect pieces around him, which the 49ers did, which the Bucs, to a lesser degree, can do. So I don't think that's crazy at all. You could say Giants maybe, just to give him competition, but I'm not sure. Random question. What NFL coach that isn't in the Hall of Fame do you feel like belongs in the Hall of Fame that isn't in? For me, it's Mike Holmgren. You cannot tell the story of the NFL without him. Dude has a better resume than Tony Dungy and Bill Cowher, and he isn't in. Very shocked about that. Darn crime. Yeah, I'm with you. You look at Mike Holmgren's coaching tree. Obviously, Andy Reid comes to mind. You've had a number of coaches. Even he's out of the NFL now, but John Gruden for a while had a successful career. He had an excellent head coaching career. So I'm with you. I think he's a Hall of Famer without a question. And I think he does belong in that category with Dungy, with Cowher. He did get to multiple Super Bowls with Brett Favre, and even with Matt Hasselbeck, got to a Super Bowl with him where they lost to Bill Cowher and the Steelers. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I think Mike Holmgren, the effect he's had on coaching offense in the NFL, absolutely. His effect is still being felt today. So I'm with you. I absolutely believe Mike Holmgren should get in the Hall of Fame. No question about it. But that's a good question. I absolutely agree with you there. But yeah, like I said, I think Jimmy Garoppolo in Tampa works. I think maybe it's not the most likely trade destination. I think it makes the most sense. But for San Francisco, though, to their credit, they're saying, okay, that's our guy. And that says a lot. For them to say, Trey Lance is our guy. They did the same thing. I talked about this recently. I said the 49ers need to do the same thing that the Chiefs did in 2018. right? 2017, Alex Smith had the best year of his career. And they traded him as fast as they could. Why? Because they saw what they had in Patrick Mahomes. They saw him in practice every day. We didn't. Public didn't. Fans didn't. But they saw, oh, this kid is going to be amazing. They traded Alex Smith. They got Patrick Mahomes, and safe to say that's worked out pretty well. So for the 49ers, I'm not saying Trey Lance is going to be Mahomes, but they see what they have in him. I'm telling you, if he wasn't ready to play, Jimmy Garoppolo is staying a 49er. No question. He's going to stay a 49er if Trey Lance isn't ready to play. But they see come September, he's going to be ready to go. And Trey Lance, I said back to last year's draft, I thought Trevor Lawrence was obviously the best prospect, but in regards to who I thought was going to have the best career, I thought it was going to be Trey Lance. And I still believe that. Kyle Shanahan, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, offensive line led by the best left tackle in football, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, defensively, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. I'm telling you, people are really dismissing the 49ers right now. People are acting like next year it's the Rams division to lose, and they very well may win the division next year. With the talent they have in that roster, obviously they're in the Super Bowl today. You better not dismiss those 49ers. Because Trey Lance, I'm telling you, that kid's going to be special. And there's a reason that they're moving off Jimmy G as quick as they are. If Nick Mullins, remember he was there for a while, if Nick Mullins was still their backup, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back next year. Like, there's no discussion, no serious discussion of a Garoppolo trade unless you can get a good starting quarterback in return. They're not looking for that. They know what they have. So credit to the 49ers for giving their young guy confidence. John says, for a minute, I thought Mike and Andy was the same guy. LOL. Yeah, they look the same. Obviously, got the glasses and the mustache, and yeah, that's a good comparison. But they both have had an unbelievable impact on offenses in the NFL. Grady with the suggestion, Jimmy to Cleveland. No, I don't think that happens because, look, I mean, do you have the competition with Baker and Jimmy? Maybe. But I don't think the Browns would be willing to give away some first-round picks, especially if they're not sure about Baker. And if they want to draft a quarterback next year, they're going to want that first-round pick. And they're going to need, because Cleveland's going to be a good team next year. They're not going to suck. So they're not going to have a high draft pick. So they're going to want all the assets they can possibly have to go trade up next year in the 2023 draft and get a quarterback if Baker still doesn't pan out. So I don't think that would make a ton of sense. Yeah, I mean, again, would they give a first rounder to San Francisco? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm Cleveland, I'm keeping all my assets in-house and getting ready for next year to trade up to draft a quarterback if indeed that is what happens. So I think Jimmy to the Giants, as you suggested, I think that's a more likely scenario than Jimmy to Cleveland. But Jimmy to Tampa, I think it works. Moving on now to this is really interesting. We're talking about quarterbacks possibly going to new teams. How about Aaron Rodgers, who's certainly been widely discussed as of late? Read a report the other day. He is buying a home. He bought some property, and a house is being built for Aaron Rodgers in Nashville, Tennessee. Love that city, by the way. Beautiful city. But this rumors are starting. Hey, does Aaron want to go to? Does he want to go to the Tennessee Titans? Now, let me give you my opinion as to whether I think he'll go there or not. Or how about this? Whether this, him getting a house in Nashville means he's going to the Titans. I don't think that is horribly likely. I think there's a chance, but I wouldn't say, hey, there's a realistic possibility. I'm not going to go all in on that. Because, I mean, you obviously had Tom Brady. There was kind of a telltale sign when he and Giselle sold their house in Boston his last year with the Patriots. And, of course, he went to Tampa Bay. Maybe that happens. But I think for Aaron Rodgers, look, he lives in California. There's no state tax in Tennessee. So maybe that factors in the decision a little bit. I have no idea. Why he's moved to Tennessee. That's for you to discuss with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. But as far as if he would go to Tennessee, for Aaron, let's talk about Aaron's side of it and then the Titans side of it. For Aaron, would I go to the Titans if I were Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not. You say, why? He'd be going to a bad division. He played the Texans and the Jaguars and Indianapolis with Carson Wentz twice a year. Look, as bad as the AFC South is, it's better than the NFC North. I mean, at least in the AFC South. Yes, Carson Wentz is hindering the Colts, but Frank Reich is a dang good coach. They have an unbelievable roster, a great defense, great offensive players led by Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson. For Jacksonville, I just talked about earlier, Doug Pederson's there. They're not going to be a playoff team, but they're going to be a whole lot better than they were in 2021. And Houston's a mess. But that's just one that I'm like, they're just completely incompetent. NFC North, Minnesota, they're going to hire that, I think, Mike McDonald guy to be their new head coach. It's a hire. I'm not getting up and down too excited about it. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. He's going to put up monster numbers like he did this year, and it's really not going to amount to that much, despite having Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook. Defensively, even though they have a good pass rush, their secondary is going backwards. So Aaron can tear it up with Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard. And obviously you've got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon that can run the football with a great offensive line. For Chicago, I think Justin Fields is going to work. I just have major questions about the rest of the roster. And I was iffy on the Matt Eberflus hire. I think Matt Eberflus can be a good head coach. I just didn't like hiring a defensive guy for a young quarterback who can be a star player. But Aaron Rodgers, as he told y'all, I own you. I still own you. Yep, he owns the Bears. So that's 2 wins. And then Detroit. Their quarterback left them and is in the Super Bowl. That tells you all you need to know. That tells you all you need to know about the Detroit Lions. Their quarterback left them, and he's in the Super Bowl today. And they have a top 3 pick in the draft. That tells me everything I need to know about the Lions. As bad as the AFC South is, if Aaron Rodgers did indeed go to the Tennessee Titans, it's not worse than the NFC North. NFC North is the worst division of football. It's worse than the NFC South. It's worse than the AFC South. It's worse than the NFC East. So there's that. And number 2, people act like I would be leaving junk in Green Bay. The weather's on his side, especially as it gets later in the season. He has the deepest offensive line in the National Football League. I mean, crap, guys go down constantly for Green Bay. And then some guy I've never heard of steps in and plays outstanding. So their offensive line coaches are just A+. And we know if Aaron stays in Green Bay, Devontae Adams is staying in Green Bay. Obviously, he's a free agent. If Aaron leaves, Devontae's leaving. I guess to the Raiders. You do have Aaron Jones, who's locked up on a long-term deal. You do have A.J. Dillon on a rookie contract. You do have guys defensively such as the Williams brothers. They're not actually brothers, but that's what they're called, right? Preston Williams, the Smith brothers. My bad, the Smith brothers. You got Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. Whitney Merciless had an excellent year. Kenny Clark is one of the best run stoppers in football. Jair Alexander is arguably the best corner in football. Green Bay's got a roster, man. And so, I don't know why I'd leave Green Bay to begin with. And Tennessee wouldn't be like just this massive downgrade. Tennessee's got a heck of a football team. They're not as good as Green Bay. I don't think. For the Titans, would I make the move? Likewise, absolutely not. Is Aaron Rodgers an upgrade over Ryan Tannehill? Duh. Okay, all you got to do is watch them for 5 minutes, heck, 2 minutes, and you know who's better than the other. It's not even, it ain't even close. And I like Ryan Tannehill. He ain't that guy. But 2 things for the Tennessee Titans. Number 1, commitment-wise, you don't know where Aaron Rodgers is. You have no idea. Because say the Tennessee Titans got the 4 seed. Say they won their division, but they're the 4 seed, and they get knocked out in the playoffs immediately. But they got the 1 seed with all these injuries and with one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. They got the 1 seed. They don't need Aaron Rodgers to do that. They just did it with Ryan Tannehill. Now, albeit they lost their first playoff game immediately to the other team that's in the Super Bowl today, the Cincinnati Bengals. But for all I'm concerned, it was a successful season for Tennessee. I think you would have the expectations of getting to the conference championship game a year from now, possibly winning your division and getting the 1 seed yet again. But for the Titans, you got Ryan Tannehill locked up long term. If there's another quarterback on the market, a younger guy that you like more, okay, now we got a conversation. But Aaron Rodgers, like Ben Roethlisberger, like Brett Favre, offseason after offseason, I might retire, I might not retire, I'll think about it. You worry about his commitment. And then if he plays for a year, you lose in the playoffs and he retires, then you're stuck. Then you don't have a quarterback. And then you're probably going to have to draft a rookie. And is he ready? Is he not? Then there's the question about that. And then the second reason, this may be a little harsh, may sound like a dig. Y'all know what I said about Aaron Rodgers. Not that dude in the playoffs. I mean, that was further evidenced on a couple Saturdays ago against San Francisco. That's clear. That's as clear as day. He ain't that dude in the playoffs. As much as Ryan Tannehill stunk up the joint against the Bengals, did you see Aaron Rodgers against the Niners? At least Tannehill, for all the mistakes he made, at least he made a couple throws. I was like, well, that was a good throw, Ryan. He made one down the right sideline for a touchdown to A.J. Brown. I was like, man, he threw that one on a freaking rope. Aaron did not make one throw in that playoff game, and this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. He didn't make one throw in that playoff game where I was like, wow, that is just too good. That's top. That's MVP stuff. He didn't, and he never does in the playoffs. So, in regards to postseason success, are you going to get more out of Aaron? Probably not. As far as commitment, are you going to get more out of Aaron than Tannehill? Definitely not. So I think for both parties, it doesn't make a ton of sense. For Tennessee, you shown you could beat the good teams. Derrick Henry was out for the entire second half of the season. You had starters down. A.J. Brown missed games and Julio Jones missed games, and defensively you had some starters down, and you still got the number 1 seed. Make no mistake about it. Tennessee can still get to the AFC Championship game next year. They can. To the Super Bowl? Don't know. But they can get there next year. Without Aaron. With the roster they have, that's my thoughts on that. So for Aaron, if he does, in fact, not, if he doesn't retire and he stays with the Packers, that's the most sensible move, in my opinion, for him. Because the roster, because the bad division, and also who's left as far as elite quarterbacks in the NFC. Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, maybe Kyler Murray you can throw in there. In the AFC, folks, it's loaded. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. You got some dudes in there. Derek Carr, by the way. The comparison AFC quarterbacks to NFC quarterbacks is it's really not that close when you really think about it. So I don't think it would make sense for Aaron to go to the Titans. I don't think it makes sense for the Titans to go get Aaron. And John, back to my one of my points. He says that Adams is not there. Aaron is gone. I think it's the other way around. I think if Aaron stays, Devontae's staying. You know, there was that quote that Aaron pointed out. I think he said that Devontae is the best receiver I've ever played with. And Devontae, they told him about that. And he said, yeah, when I heard that, I was like going out for date night with my wife and I like shed a tear. Like they have a good relationship. And you know, their chemistry is just out of this world, right? Now, it wasn't in the playoff game, but all in all, number 12 to number 17 is virtually unguardable. There's nothing you could do about it. So I don't think Adams would leave Green Bay if Aaron stayed. If Aaron leaves, you can kiss Devontae Adams goodbye. He is gone. He is out of there. Probably going to Vegas because he and Derek Carr were college teammates at Fresno State, and they're still good friends to this day. And the Raiders could certainly use a true number 1 receiver, and safe to say he would fit that mold. Now, I heard that he's asking for $30 million. I think he's out of his mind. Excuse me, out of his mind to ask for that. But hey, he's a great player. Maybe someone will give it to him. But that's my thoughts on that. You have to keep your eye on the Raiders, even though I'm not a fan of the Josh McDaniels hire at all. But we'll see. Especially in that division, it's definitely interesting. All right. Back to the NBA. Led the show off with the James Harden story. Did any of you guys hear that Klay Thompson's back? I don't know. I think I've said that. Probably 25 times. But tell y'all, every game he looks better and better and better and better. And last night for the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson led Golden State in scoring. Scored more points than any Warrior. By the way, did it in only 24 minutes. He's still kind of on a minutes restriction for Steve Kerr. But went 8 for 11 from the field. That's pretty good. 7 for 9 from 3. That's 78% for those of you with your calculators getting out. He looked good. And this is what I said. When Klay Thompson comes back, it's over. It's like, remember when Kenny Smith, the great broadcaster, said when Vince Carter won the dunk contest years ago? It was actually at Oracle Arena. Remember what Kenny Smith said? It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. It's over. Golden State's only competition will be Phoenix, who lost a close game last night to Atlanta. Trae Young doing Trae Young things, hitting a clutch shot there at the end. Phoenix, man, is a problem. Chris Paul, D-Book, Ayton, Mikal Bridges has had an outstanding year. Cam Johnson, Monty Williams, Jay Crowder as well. Monty Williams once again doing a phenomenal job coaching. Phoenix Golden State is going to be a heck of a Western Conference Finals. I said before the season that would be the Western Conference Finals. Y'all thought it was crazy. These are the two best teams in basketball. I told you that'd be the case. Out east, Brooklyn, put them aside. If Golden State ran to Chicago, yeah, they beat the Chicago Bulls twice this season. The Warriors won the first game against the Bulls by 26. They won the second game over the Bulls by 42. So in the two games Golden State's played against the Chicago Bulls, they've won by combined a total of 68 points. So they own the Bulls. As good as the Bulls are, they may get to the Eastern Conference Finals. How about the Heat? Well, Golden State's already beaten the Heat this season. Did it fairly easily with Steph Curry playing awful. You have, obviously, Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee's the only team that scares me. Milwaukee just destroyed the Warriors about a month ago in their house in Milwaukee. So Milwaukee scares me. If we get a Warriors-Bucks finals, which I said before the year we would, that may be a 7-gamer. I wouldn't be mad if you gave the Bucks the edge in the series, depending on how the playoffs, pan out. But in the Western Conference, please. Golden State's not going to have any, as long as they stay healthy, they're not going to have any problems with anybody in the Western Conference, okay? You look down the list. Memphis will give them issues. I told y'all before the year, I liked Memphis a lot. John Morant is just special. He's amazing. That's fairly obvious. He's an all-star game starter, for crying out loud. Deserved it. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane. You got Taylor Jenkins, who's doing a great job there as the head coach. Memphis is going to win a playoff series. They could take Golden State maybe 6, but the Warriors would, for the most part, control the series. Utah, Joe Ingles is gone for the year with a torn ACL. Prayers to him. Hopefully a speedy recovery. Donovan Mitchell's had some injury problems, and we know what Rudy Gobert does in the playoffs, and that's nothing. So they take care of Utah fairly easily. Dallas, well, Luka scares me. Nobody else beyond that does. And that was the case, again, when they played the Clippers last year, right? Luka was having these massive games. I think he had a triple-double once or twice, and nope. Clippers just shut him down, especially in Game 6 and Game 7. So Dallas it's Luka, and that's it. Okay, you look down the list at Denver. If Jamal Murray comes back, maybe they scare me a little bit with obviously Jokic and Mike Malone as their head coach, but Come on. Like, Jokic and Murray or Steph and Klay? Give me Steph and Klay any day of the week with Draymond, obviously, running the offense once he gets back. And then you got Timberwolves, Clippers. Maybe the Clippers once Kawhi comes back, but he's still got to get his legs back underneath them. The Lakers, I told y'all this season, didn't buy them in the slightest, and Portland doesn't have Damian Lillard. That's the teams 1 through 10 in the Western Conference. Golden State won't have a problem with any of them outside of Phoenix. And Memphis could give them problems, but outside of that, come on. The only 2 teams I fear as a Dubs fan, Phoenix, Milwaukee, the 2 teams that were in the finals last year. No doubt. Oh my gosh. John just says, I got the Lakers, man. He says, got lucky, injuries. Here's the thing, though. This was bound to happen. This is one of the reasons I didn't like the Lakers. Old roster leads to what? Injuries. LeBron's gotten hurt. AD, AD's one of the only young guys in the team. And what do I call him? AD doesn't stand for Anthony Davis. It stands for always down. He's always hurt. Now, he played like a man last night. He was outstanding against the Clippers. But how often is he going to be available? Russ stays healthy, but Lord have mercy, you don't know what you're getting from night to night. Malik Monk is the one free agent signing that was like, that's going to work with LeBron. And he had a big shot last night and played well once again. Melo has been good, but he's hurt again. And then we're talking about Kent Bazemore and THT, who Lakers fans were trying to sell me on. Didn't buy that at all. You got guys, DeAndre Jordan, and they traded Rondo, obviously. And come on, this is not a Russ. They got the kid. I forgot his name. The white guy that what they call him, the Southern Kobe is. Well, I can't remember that because he's from Oklahoma, I think it is. Gosh, what's his name? Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves, that's his name. He's a nice player, but forgive it, the Lakers. They're not going to win a playoff series. I overestimated the Lakers this season. I said they win a playoff series and get bounced by Phoenix in the second round. No. LeBron may carry them to a win in a playoff series, but that's about all they'll get. AD's never healthy. Westbrook is a postseason disaster, and the rest of the roster is just flat out old. It's that simple. But watch out for Golden State. But, as far as the Lakers last night, to their credit, down 17 without LeBron, who's been dealing with some knee injuries. Hold on, I got another comment here from John. How you don't know your cousin? Oh, come on, man. Don't say it. Not all white people look alike, John. Not all white people look alike. Come on. He says, how you not know your cousin's name? No. No, he's not from down south here in Tennessee. As far as I think he's from Oklahoma. He's further towards the middle than towards the south. But no, not all white people look alike, bro. But to the Lakers' credit, they're down 17 against the Clippers. But what concerns me a little bit, and by the way, Ty Lue, can we give a round of applause to Ty Lue? Because the job he's done, Kawhi's obviously been out for the entire season. According to Ty Lue, I think he tripped over his words a little bit. Not tripped over his words, but accidentally kind of leaked it. He said something to the effect of, Kawhi is probably not going to be back. And then he kind of tried to walk it back his comments, but it's like, yeah, he let it out. Kawhi is probably not going to be back with the torn ACL. But then you got Paul George, who's also dealing with injury problems. And so your best player really at this point is Mr. June, Reggie Jackson. Mr. June, obviously, because Reggie Jackson, in reference to the Yankees, Reggie Jackson, who's Mr. October. And this Reggie Jackson played great in June in the playoffs last year, and you get the idea. But Reggie Jackson, who, of course, at the game-winning shot, I watched it from start to finish. Unbelievable basketball game. The last 20 seconds was crazy. You had Morris hitting the three in the corner. By the way, this was after the three made by Malik Monk, and then Westbrook threw the lob to Anthony Davis, and then here comes Reggie Jackson the other way, a spin move out of the double team, and he lays it up, banks it off the glass. Anthony Davis tries a little floater there at the end of the buzzer that goes in and out. It was a great basketball game at the Crypto.com arena. I almost said Staples Center. It's still taking some getting used to, man. But for the Clippers, credit to them and credit to Ty Lue for really getting this group to buy in because, look, this team very well could get in the playoffs, especially once Paul George gets back. But what's concerning if you're the Lakers, once again, when you're getting it sucks for them because when they're getting Westbrook's best performances, I mean, last night, you look at a stat line, he was really good last night. By the way, he hit some big shots down the stretch that got the Lakers back into that basketball game. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, but made the key plays down the stretch. He was a +5, plus minus. He was a +5. Anthony Davis gave you 30 and 17 on 50% shooting. You'll take that any day of the week. Like, that's an Anthony Davis stat line: 30 points, 17 rebounds. Malik Monk was solid for you. He gave you 21, hit 3 3-pointers. But then after that, Trevor Ariza and Melo got hurt early in the game, and Kent Bazemore gave you 1 more point than I gave them. Taylor Horton-Tucker and Reeves, Stanley Johnson, who's a nice story, but he's not going to make any impact in the playoffs for them. Just kind of a meh for the Lakers. Credit to them for coming back from down 17. But A, they didn't win the game. And B, folks, this is not a championship contender. It doesn't work. We're in February now. It doesn't work. I don't know what sort of deal they can make at the trade deadline. Maybe they trade all the old guys for some, maybe they went out and got like a Jaylen Brown or something. I don't know. Maybe they got one of these Indiana Pacers like a Domantas Sabonis, which I don't think that would work with AD, but say they went out and got a Miles Turner or a, who's the point guard there? Malcolm Brogdon. But it's kind of a shrug. The Lakers very well may get in the playoffs. I still think they'll get in. I do. I think they'll be in the play-in, but I still think they'll get in the playoffs, but they won't make much noise there. LeBron probably will, but that's it. I don't take the Lakers seriously at all. They're bad defensively, they're old, and they're unreliable. Even LeBron is unreliable at this point. Not because he's not clutch like the false narrative persists. He's 37. He's getting older. He's dealing with injuries. Just like the Brooklyn Nets, I got way more questions than answers with the Los Angeles Lakers than I do Phoenix and Golden State. Like, it's their conference. It's their conference to lose. It's them and everybody else out west. Now, in the East, it's wide open. Miami, Chicago, Milwaukee, those are my top 3 in no particular order. I have the Bucks winning the Eastern Conference. But listen, if Chicago won it, wouldn't stun me. If Miami won it, that definitely wouldn't stun me at all for how they play defense. PJ Tucker came from the Bucks to the Heat. So Miami's got a good thing going. Eric Spoelstra is an excellent head coach. So, but in the Western Conference, it's the Suns or it's the Warriors. It's not going to be anybody else. It's no if. When they get to the Western Conference Finals, that's going to be a heck of a series. I had Golden State in 7. Before the year started, I said Golden State and Phoenix will meet in the finals. Phoenix will be the 1 seed, Golden State 2. That could flip, but who knows? And I had Golden State winning in 7 games because I think the teams are that evenly matched. Both are great defensively. The pace is up and down fast. For the Suns, you got Chris Paul, who's just made his 12th All-Star game. Devin Booker, who's the best player on the team. And Golden State speaks for itself. You got the Splash Brothers, Draymond Green. By the way, Jonathan Kuminga, man. I thought Jonathan Kuminga would be a nice piece for us this year because I like the draft pick a lot. He went 6th overall to the Warriors. But I didn't think Kuminga would make an impact this fast. You got Jordan Poole. You've got guys like Kevon Looney, who's quietly playing really good basketball right now. Gary Payton. Who am I missing? Otto Porter Jr., Bielitsa. Deep basketball team, plays great defense, and can get any shot they want on offense because of what Steve Kerr runs. So I'm looking forward to it. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the regular season. We got the All-Star game in, when is the All-Star game? The 20th. So 16 days, a week after the Super Bowl. So it's going to be fun stuff from Cleveland, Ohio. But I think the Warriors will be represented pretty well with Steph, Wiggins, and Draymond. Draymond's not going to play, but he'll be there in Cleveland. And the road to yet another NBA Finals trophy, another Larry O'Brien trophy, it continues for my Warriors. Just saying. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. I'm sad because we don't have any football this weekend. Again, as I mentioned to start the show, the Pro Bowl does not count. I hate the Pro Bowl, but I'll probably watch it a little bit. Probably check social media and maybe watch a basketball game depending on who's playing. But Yeah, like I said, hope everybody has a great weekend leading up to it's Super Bowl week, guys. It's going to be fun. We got some great stuff packed in for you for Carving It Up Live next week on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. All shows will start at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're on YouTube, by the way, be sure to subscribe, like, share, comment. It helps the channel grow exponentially. If you're listening to the Carving It Up podcast, we appreciate that as well. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So have a great weekend, everybody. See you all on Monday night. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. I'm out of here. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.